Well, normally I'm the most nervous one in the room doing these employee forums. And last time we were here, we challenged the technology. And so in quintessential Worldvision style, we went back and did a PIR and thought about what we could do better and da-da-da. So today we're going to blitz it. Not only is the PowerPoint going to work, but we have a brand new technology experience. We're actually webcasting this particular session to state offices all around the country. I was going to say all around Australia, same thing. So Jill and a whole host of other people have been working incredibly hard, not only to make sure the PowerPoints actually work, but the technology that we're going to be using today. So if I'm nervous, these guys are nervous with a capital N. So thank you to the team for putting that together. As you came in, there are a number of gifts that we've given you, one of which is thank you nuts. For those of you who have a nut allergy, just be careful. If you're in a state office, they're coming to you to an office near you. So a few different bits and pieces going forward. Anyway, so let's get on the employee forum journey. As I mentioned, courtesy of Mr. Potato Head, but I had the luxury of writing the executive news wrap, and it did dawn on me as I was doing it that it was the start of the financial year for Worldvision Australia. And so clearly, as I shared in the executive news wrap, I actually had to sit and think about, well, okay, the year in review. And I've shared this with a couple of people around the organisation. Without even prompting, I actually sat back and I thought, yeah, okay, I'll sit down and write, what have we done? What were we doing this time 12 months ago? And I must admit, I sat there and I was absolutely dumbfounded. I couldn't think about what we were actually doing this time 12 months ago. So Kira, who you know works for me, she came in and we were doing our regular catch-up, and I said, Kira, what were we doing 12 months ago? And she couldn't remember either. So what we did was actually go into the employee forums, and of course then it all sparked and has come back to me. But it also shows, and I'll share in the forum just coming up, just how much we've actually done this year. So you know, if it's been a mind-numbing experience, an incredibly enjoyable experience for me, I know it's potentially been the same as you. But the slide that stood out for me, strangely enough, was actually this one, which is the renovation theme that I shared exactly at the October Forum this time last year. And it was all about that, you know, the year ahead was going to be one of transformation. And I think as we go through not only the numbers, but some of the stories I'm going to share with you today, we really have begun to transform ourselves. In fact, we have transformed. We are a different space from what we were 12 months ago. And I was using the analogy of clearly sharing a little bit more about myself, about in terms of renovation, that clearly I enjoy restoring old houses that have, you know, got some sort of quality and style and panache about them, but they've become a little bit tired and a little bit irrelevant for the current era. So anyway, that was the analogy that I've used, and I know I've shared it in a number of spaces, not only in employee forums, but when I've met with people one-on-one. We do need to transform this organisation, and the story I want to tell today is that we're very much on the way. So thanks to all of you who's been part of that journey. A core part of the employee forum is to actually look at the traffic lights. So let's see how we did this year. I don't think the first three will be any particular surprise. It's a journey that I think has been evolving, not only in the last 12 months, but more previously. The four traffic lights that we look at are clearly child sponsorship is the heart and soul of who we are as an organisation, and it's critical for us to stabilise child sponsorship, not only because of what the program or the product and everything that falls out of it actually is. It's the heart and soul of the organisation, but it actually gives us life to go forward. It's not the only thing that we do, and it's probably not the only thing that we'll continue to focus on going forward, but it really is incredibly important. We set ourselves a target of 195 million, but to put it in more, I guess, classic terms, there are certain things. We have acquisitions of child sponsorship and we also have cancellations. The reason why we didn't meet our target is essentially, if you look at the net of acquisitions and cancellations, we're 6,000 behind what we actually planned to be this time in the year. So that's about 3 million behind the budget that we set. To cut ourselves a bit of slack, if you actually go back and look at the numbers historically, this is a higher number than we've had over the past 2 to 3 years. So full credit to the sales and marketing team to be able to get to the level they actually did. But it just highlights the ongoing challenge we have around not only acquisition, but the ongoing problem of cancellations of child sponsorship. The plans on a page completed. Yes, the majority of plans did actually get completed, but there are some that we actually didn't get done that we said we would do. And I'll leave the detail for that for you to look in online when we actually finish the forum. I won't go into that today. The grants number is a little bit tricky. The grants team have done a phenomenal amount of work in actually securing grants, and I'll give you a little bit more detail further on. Part of the reason why they didn't meet their $60 million target is that the Australian government decided to delay particular payments. So without even trying, we were going to be $6 million behind where we wanted to be, just by the timing of payments out of the Australian government. So all in all, it's a red traffic light story. But for me as a person or a leader in the organisation, the one statistic I actually look forward to is actually the funds to the field, because it actually plays to what we're on about as an organisation, actually impacting the lives of children. So we're here not only to deliver quality programs, but to make sure all the programs we have around the world actually have the funding that they require to deliver the development experience that we actually want to, and the impact and the changes we want to deliver. So the funds to the field is really how much we actually send to the field after all of our expenses. And I use it as a metric at this particular stage because it's something that all of us can contribute to. Funds to the field is everything that the revenue basically we generate minus all of the expenses. So there's some accounting treatment in there, but it's actually our salaries. It's how much travel we do. It's how much we invest in IT systems. Sure, it's how much we generate through our sales and fundraising activities. Everything that we have left over gets sent to the field. So in the last employee forum, we actually had a forecast sitting at $265 million, which was going to be behind target. But the good news is we have one green traffic light this year, and we've actually exceeded our funds to the field. We set our target of 273. You beat me to it. Set a target of 273 and we've done 282. So let's give ourselves a clap. So why is this so? How can you have 3 red and 1 particular green? Well, a big part of it, and I know Greg, if you're here, for all of you in the finance area who've been working very hard to try and make sure that the valuation is absolutely correct. We have a program called Gift in Kind where we, in large part, get gifts. A big part of it is pharmaceuticals that obviously we deliver to the field for, delivering the impact and the sustainable change in children's lives. Big part is pharmaceutical. There has been a question mark this year as to how we actually value those gifts in kind. And at one stage during the year, we have a budget or set a target of $33 million. At one stage this year, that valuation was going to be 0. Just because of accounting treatment and laws and all that sort of stuff. I'm pleased to report we've gone through every part of the machination and review, and PwC and all sorts of other people have been involved. But we can actually value the GIK, which means we can put it, and according to these numbers, which is one of the reasons why we're going forward, another $27 million back into how we value our work going forward. So that's a great relief. But let's be clear, there are other efforts that we as individuals across the organisation have done to contribute to making sure that we do get that 282 million result. There's one particular division I do want to call out because they have actually had a phenomenal year. And I want to call out the Major Donors and Enterprises team. For those of you who've been around for the organisation, they're a group who we basically carved out and set themselves under their own particular space in the last 12 to 18 months, their own definite division. They sat underneath the more holistic engagement division 2 to 3 years ago. Each year these guys basically start with a clean sheet of paper. So on the 1st of October they start with 0. In 2012, so the last financial year, those guys raised $12.4 million through our Major Donors and Enterprises. This year they set themselves a target, we set them a target of 16, and I know Rick in particular, I was going to say he lost a little bit more hair, but maybe I shouldn't. But no, look, the team have worked really hard and they knew what was expected of them. If you include the fact that they actually manage the workplace giving relationships, those guys this year have raised $17.1 million. So not to let them off the hook, I'll remind them again, it's back down to 0 at the moment. No surprises, we've given them an even bigger stretch target for the year ahead, but honestly, that's just absolutely phenomenal, really, for a brand new division not even 2 years old. So congratulations. There are other bits and pieces. The World Food Programme has given us some additional money in Africa. Syria, my gosh, what a space. We've had additional vouchers to the value of $1.7 million, but just the emergency relief appeal, the numbers we got the other day is about $1.5 million. We have a new program called Regular Giving, which is basically Australians, we know they're not wanting to sign up for a pledged product like child sponsorship. They're quite happy just to donate a bucket of money. In 2012, the money we received was $1.5 million. Just to give you the size again, we budgeted $3.2. At the end of August, what we'd received through Regular Giving was $9.4 million. I haven't seen the number for September. So I put greater than 10 million and growing. But once again, congratulations, sales and marketing, who I know have owned that. Just more importantly, I mean, clearly these are income numbers and it's going to that particular space, but there are a number of things where we've actually carved back savings. So we've all been quite diligent in thinking about, do we actually need to spend this? This isn't a deliberate thing, but one of the areas clearly where we can save a bit of money is where we have a vacant position. Clearly we're not expensing a salary, and the number of vacant positions we generally have month on month has contributed to that. But I don't want to call that out as kind of a positive thing to do, but just to reaffirm, my gosh, we've exceeded the target. Sure, there's some lucky wins in there in terms of timing of particular payments, but I just want to recognise and call out that a lot of the work that we've been doing and building on is starting to bear fruit. So congratulations to everyone. I just want to remind people though, well, does that mean we don't need to worry about supporter centricity? And the answer is we do need to worry about supporter centricity, because the themes around these 3 traffic lights is actually the things that we control we're actually not in control of. So our child sponsorship reserves as a ramification are fully allocated, even going into FY14, which means the non-CSPON funds are actually being used to potentially fill any gaps that we've got going forward. A lot of the good news stories to get us up over the line now is around government aid and grants, and we know exactly what the result in Australia, and particularly the federal election, was, and the climate that's happening. It's just going to be an incredibly challenging environment in the grants and multilat space. And GIK came to fruition at the end, but there is a brand new policy in the way we're going to be using GIK across the partnership. So in fact the GIK opportunity for us going forward may not be as positive as it has been. So just to reiterate, there is actually growth out there. We've seen it in the regular giving and all of the other things I've just spoken about, MD&E, but we're not actively playing in that space. So we actually need to continue on supporter centricity. The challenge hasn't gone away. So, as I say, congratulations, we've got the green light, and as I said up front, you know, my mind-numbing experience in trying to think about what are we doing 12 months ago, and actually sitting down and starting to think about. I'm not going to go through this, it's deliberately in grey, because what I want to point out to you is there is so many things that we have done and achieved this year collectively as an organisation that I simply don't have time to go through every single piece of them. What I will be doing is circulating the full list, and I've asked each of the GMs also to call out areas that they think are particular highlights in their division. And look, this is just a snapshot of what I've got on the slide here. It is a phenomenal experience in what we've done this year. So I encourage you actually to have a look through that list when I actually publish it later on today. For me as an individual though, I just wanted to highlight a number of things that really stood out for me. And as I went back to the Employee Forum in October last year, can you believe it was this time last year that we actually did the Hugh Jackman Seeds of Hope dinner? So not only was that an extraordinary successful event, and speaking with the major donors and enterprises team, the benefits of that are continuing to reel in. So most recently we talked about the CEO of Bunnings. He was actually a guy who paid, I'm going to get the number wrong, but I think it was about $15,000 at the event to travel with Tim to the field. He did actually do that, and as a result had a great experience, of course, and is now in ongoing conversations about how we can continue to engage with him as an individual, but more importantly, well not more importantly, but also how we can continue to engage with Bunnings as an organisation. That opportunity has been seeded, if you pardon the pun, purely out of the Hugh Jackman piece. All of you, I know, sat in on the brand launch and campaign. I think we'll all agree that was a phenomenal campaign. Once again, I don't have the statistics in front of me to share with you just in a timely manner, but that has been incredibly successful. So I just want to call that out. That's been a real highlight for me. We'll talk a little bit about the 4 immediate priorities in a minute, but big tick to the ICT group. We moved across Lotus Notes into Outlook over a weekend, and I've got to say I'm a much happier camper on Microsoft Outlook than I have been on Lotus Notes, but don't underestimate the time and effort that took, and I know some people were working pretty much through the night over that weekend to get that done. I've talked about the growth in major donors and enterprises. For me, I absolutely loved most recently the anecdote circles, and we'll continue to share those stories more broadly about some of the stories people have shared about what it's like to work at Worldvision. That has been incredibly insightful and powerful, not only to me, but also to the other leaders across the executive team. What can I say? The design forum had to be a highlight. It's still resonating and still I'm reflecting on it a great deal, not only in the work I'm doing currently, but as we talk about our journey going forward. And I think for me, even though, as I said at the beginning, I stand up here as a fairly nervous individual at the start of every employee forum, I do in fact enjoy these forums, look forward to them, and certainly the EO lunches, catching up with some of you on a more informal basis going forward. The final thing I want to say, and I just want to congratulate, which is a wonderful thing about our organisation. Clearly I don't get to every single one of them, but I know each of you and each of your teams and each of your divisions do little things to celebrate success and celebrate wins and celebrate different occasions. And the one I want to call out here, I know there was a bake-off in the IPG group, and this looks like a really small photo, but I've got to say this is actually about 1 metre in diameter, and is I'm probably going to do it injustice, sorry to the cooks, but it's basically a cooking creation of one of our ADPs. But isn't that awesome? So, well done. Okay, back to Jenny stuff, you know, priorities and choices. Not sure if you can see that quite clearly. One of the things I focus on, I mean, we continue on to do things, we have a strategy, and we still do have a strategy, and are building on the strategy we set 2 years ago. Each year we call out 4 immediate priorities. So just to give you an update, our priorities in 2013 were to revitalise child sponsorship and establish new revenue streams. CSPON, let's talk about CSPON 2.0. That's about to launch on the 24th of October. Phenomenal work that's been done not only in sales and marketing and ICT, but to bring that child sponsorship experience to life through a digital platform. Some amazing feedback that we're getting from supporters about that. So if you're not aware of what Child Sponsorship 2.0 is about, there's plenty of material on the hub, but you'll certainly hear more about it on October the 24th. But that's been basically 2 years in the working, but it's coming to life by the end of this month, which is great. Wills and Bequests is one of the things that we've certainly seeded this year to get up and running, and it's been in the major donors and enterprises area. Just to report back, that is up and running. There is a team in place. And just to give you an indication of what they've achieved, certainly in the last couple of months, is they've contacted 4,000 supporters over the age of 65 via phone. They've actually collated all of the information we have about bequests currently in place. From their initial campaign period, they've engaged 362 supporters who are considering leaving a bequest, and 83 who've actually confirmed a pledge going forward. So look, that's only just the tip of the iceberg on that, but that's... as I say, from nothing this time 12 months ago, we now have a team in place who are actively getting on top of things. The commercial grants area, we were working very hard to secure a contract with the Standard Bank and the Swedish Energy Agency on the Ethiopia fuel-efficient stoves. That is a really challenging space given the number of stakeholders that are involved in that. And it's also because the Standard Bank eventually, once it's all sorted out, actually sells its carbon credits from a field project, returning the profit back and all sorts of things there. Cut a long story short, the will and intent is there, we just haven't got the contract across the line. So at this stage it's still work in progress, we haven't as yet landed it. Platforms for the future, Fab4, yep, clearly we're up and running. We've got a supporter portal for those of you who want to do gifts, tell your friends about it. You can actually do it on your mobile. I've actually done it, it's easy as, even for a technology Luddite like me, love it. But Fab4 is up and running, which is great, ready for the campaign. Core systems, clearly I've called out Microsoft Outlook, and we're working very hard at the moment just to convince the board to sign off on our customer CRM system. So all things being well, we'll have board sign off by the end of October, which means we can rock and roll in moving our organisation off Echo into something a little bit more practical, meaningful, and something that works towards our supporter centricity. Sustainable organisation, Worldvision Way is still humming along quietly in the background, but clearly our work around the StratEx project, which has set our journey on supporter centricity, and the design forum has been a component part in order to get the Worldvision Way kind of up and running. So I think for immediate priorities, I'm going to give ourselves basically 4 green traffic lights because I'm an easy marker, but that's great. All right, let's move on to something a little bit more current, project supporter. So we are on a movement, on a journey towards supporter centricity, and I just want to give you an update and remind you where things are at. For those of you who've read the executive news wrap this week, there is a link there. Clearly we had an experience at the Design Forum. One of the key output of the Design Forum was actually to give us a roadmap that actually talks about the things we want to be doing in relation to being more supporter centricity, and we've set ourselves 3 timelines, 3 months, 6 months and 12 months. Number of ideas came out of the forum. We've actually looked at them, validated them, and they've actually been agreed. So get on and have a look and see what it is that we are committing to do over those 3 particular areas, and also see about the areas that you may be able to contribute. They may be part of your role, or there may be areas that we're looking for help just because of who you are and because you do work at Worldvision. So get on and have a look. The challenge in all of that is we're not asking people to do things to get us towards supporter centricity on top of things that are already happening. So the question we actually have to ask is, well, is the things that I'm being asked to do, the projects going forward, actually going to help us get on a journey towards supporter centricity? If it is now the right time to do it, or should we delay it? So we've actually got to be creating capacity in order to do these things going forward. So I just want to call out a number of things that I've made a decision on, but I also want to encourage you to actually go back and sit and think about what are the things that you can do, that you work on or that you're involved in, that you can actually stop or delay so that you can actually create space to help us move as a collective group along the journey ahead. So just quickly, if the message hasn't got out, we were planning on doing an office refurbishment next year. I've actually cancelled that, not only because of the costs, and I don't think that's the right time to do it, but just thinking about the way we may be working next year, I'm not seeing any particular value in actually doing that particular activity. So if there are seating constraints, we're going to have to work a little bit differently and think about how we position everybody. But the office refurbishment has been cancelled. Similarly, the link development plans, as we know, this is probably the busiest time of year in terms of formal people review processes. All we're doing at this particular time formally is that each of you will participate in your performance review. There is nothing stopping you if you actually want to have a development discussion with your manager, etc., but the formal paperwork doesn't need to be completed in this particular time frame. So development plans and setting of objectives will happen in March next year. So some of those key activities that we're doing, we will put on hold until early next year. The other thing I'm particularly looking at, given the number of forums and meetings that I'm involved in, is to think about, firstly, do these meetings need to go ahead? If they do need to go ahead, is this the right amount of time? Can we shorten them? Can we actually look at the frequency of doing those meetings? So some of you will be involved in some of those meeting rearrangements that come out of my particular diary. But it's the same thing to ask each of you. Go back and have a look at your calendar. Do you really need to have that meeting? Do you really need to participate in that meeting? Is an hour sufficient, or could you do it in half an hour? Do you actually have to meet weekly? Could you do it more fortnightly? Think about opportunities for you to create space in your diary. I want to talk a bit about budget and business planning, just to confirm that these are all locked down. Just to put it in context, yes, we're on a journey towards supporter centricity. Yes, we are transforming or renovating the organisation, but we have to keep the organisation ticking along. So business planning is about setting ourselves what it is, what activities are we actually going to be doing that we need to keep this organisation moving along. The business planning work has been done. The budget that was submitted and signed off to the board has been authorised. So I know from my particular area, I've gone back to each of the GMs to say, this is what is agreed in your business plan, this is the budget you have, just go ahead and continue on doing what it is that you said you were going to do. So your GM should be coming back to you about the possibilities and what actually you will be asking to do, just even in this change of transformation going forward. So budget and business planning, tick, done. Nothing further to be done other than do it. I guess, Nike principle. So just finally on this slide, clearly one of the questions people, and myself included, ask, clearly there are going to be conversations around structure. I just wanted to reaffirm to you today that structure is just one of the components we're looking at in terms of our journey towards supporter centricity. As we've said time and time again, we need to think about the capabilities, we need to talk about the metrics, we need to talk about the culture, the processes, the systems. Structure in itself won't get us forward towards supporter centricity. I just wanted to call out today that work discussions are beginning around how we're going to organise ourselves going forward, but I and Tim won't be in a position to share any great detail about what the structure or the way we're going to be organised until after the board meeting in November. When you look at the board policies and the decisions that they need to make, the way we organise is actually a key decision point of the board. So that will be focus. We'll keep you up to date on information as it becomes available, but I just want to set expectations that we won't be able to come back to you in any formal or meaningful sense until after the board meeting, which is 21st of November. But it is there, it is one of the components, it is critical, but it's not the thing that will get us on our journey going ahead. So, as we talk about supporter centricity, we've been doing a lot of work internally, and I guess one of the conversations or the reflections sometimes people give us is we spend a lot of time focusing about ourselves, and where do our supporters actually feature in the conversation? We engage with supporters every day in a variety of spaces, and a lot of you engage with supporters probably more than me on a daily basis. One of the things I really enjoyed about the design forum, lots of things I enjoyed about it, but one of the exercises was a thing called the fishbowl, which basically meant that we sat back as people outside the fishbowl, looking at some fish, in this case supporters, but actually sitting in and hearing a conversation about supporters talking to each other about their experience with Worldvision. I'm excited to say that each of you today are going to experience this fishbowl experience. We do actually have a group of supporters in the building who are already talking with each other about their experiences with Worldvision. And some of our colleagues are also over there to continue to not only listen into that conversation, but to ask some questions. We'll share a little bit more about the profile of each of our supporters on the hub at the end of this, but just let me take a short time just to introduce who we do actually have in our fishbowl today. We have Mi Pham from Jetstar, who's one of our corporate supporters, who is kind enough to join us on the same day that Jetstar also have a launch event happening. But thank you to Mia for being here today. Murray and Vivian Mountain, who've been major donors, and I think for a double-digit period of time for us as an organisation, a really long connection with Worldvision Australia. Scott Anderson, who's a pastor from the Bayside Church, who I know is one of our strategic church partners. We've also got Chris Cook, who is a supporter with 3 child sponsorships and 1 child rescue pledge. And finally, John Lewis, a small business owner, who also with 3 sponsorships and 1 child rescue. I think actually in the cafe, you know how sometimes you leave your 20 cents or 50 cent change. A large part of the change they get actually goes to support child sponsorships and other upsells for Worldvision. And finally, Sareti Kadir, who some of you may have seen and met not only through Worldvision work but at Devotions, a really inspiring young lady who's a volunteer with our Youth Ambassador program. So let's take some time to listen in to see what our supporters say about Worldvision. So flip the switch, it's my key.
Getting a taste of what it's like.
Great. You're going to open up when it comes, is that right?
Great. Sorry, we thought we were.
No, you're not going yet.
No.
No.
Well, that's easy.
Great. Yeah, we've already started, yeah.
Great. But so I'm going to open up on you when we cross. So
I think no. We're already live. Sorry. Thank you. Sorry, everyone. We're going to continue the conversation. Viv, thank you so much. That was wonderful. We've kind of stopped you midway there. Did you want to continue sharing about now where you guys are currently at?
Have you got that already? What I was
yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
We have been.
So now we've moved into child rescue more, which I think is it's kind of a check, and it goes to some bigger picture than just the individual child. But I'm feeling very happy with Worldvision as an organisation. I've always thought it was one of the best. Yeah, and I think coming from a Christian background, we decided when we were first married to tithe. So giving a proportion of our money each payday to something was our big thing. And it was easier somehow when we were poor, but that's a weird, that's another matter. But now that we've got a bit more money, World Vision is there still for us as a it's a mark of justice, a mark of trying to make the world somehow a more just place. And from my point of view, I think it's kind of, I don't want to use the word guilt, but it's almost like that. How come we have, by accident, got so much, and other people, by accident, have nothing? And if we can do something to make it a little bit equal, our old school principal, Dr. Wood, said, "Those to whom much is given, much will be required." And I've kind of put that in the back of my mind as just a little kind of motto for life almost. We have been given so much. Yeah. That's okay. Is that enough?
That's beautiful. Thank you so much. Well, we might just open that up now to the rest of the table. Did anybody else want to jump in and share why they became a supporter of World Vision?
Well, my journey, I guess, began kind of similar to yours, Vivian, with the 40-hour famine. So the first, I guess, contact or engagement I ever had with World Vision was through the 40-hour famine in 2010, I think it was, when I was in year 10. And a group of friends and myself decided to do the 40-hour famine within our school. First time we tried it didn't go so well, so we tried it again in 2011. We raised a little bit more money then, but then it was in 2012, in my final year of high school, I was school captain and I decided that I really wanted to make the 40-hour famine big within my school. Although my school personally didn't get on board with doing it as a whole, they really, really backed me in doing it individually. So that was kind of where I began, and I ended up giving up food and furniture. Was it similar back then with giving up like those food, furniture, technology, and I think it was talking? Similar things. So yeah, I gave up those things, and then from there I decided, like, coming out of high school, I really didn't want to wait until I'd finished university, had a degree and all of those things until like I could give back or put my skills into action. I wanted a way to use whatever I had then and there to do something. And then the youth ambassador position, like, I found out about that and I thought it was an incredible opportunity to engage with young people, which is really what I love doing. And so applying for that and then getting the opportunity to travel with World Vision and see their work firsthand was absolutely phenomenal. Like, I guess the trip was so designed to understand that we as young people had a little bit of understanding about what World Vision did, but to give us that really in-depth understanding about the development and about how these programs were designed and about how they were used to alleviate poverty, but then giving us the opportunity to creatively convey this to young people in schools throughout the year has been so fantastic, because we've actually seen the effect of young people hearing these stories from Malawi, like, kilometres and kilometres away, but taking on the responsibility to do something about it. So that's been fantastic, and it all started with the 40-hour famine, so it's been incredible.
Yeah, well, I'm kind of quite similar. I grew up with World Vision and went to a Catholic primary school, and so I've always been involved with the 40-hour famine. But from a corporate perspective, when I joined Jetstar and I found out that Jetstar had a relationship with World Vision, that was their corporate social responsibility program, I definitely wanted to be involved. And the Star Kids partnership was formed between World Vision and Jetstar because Jetstar was expanding rapidly and we were receiving a lot of charity and sponsorship requests. So it was decided that rather than giving funds to 50 charities and doing none of them justice, just to streamline them all into the one charity, and that's World Vision. So World Vision receive all of the funds. And I think similar to what Vivian was saying just about being so fortunate, Jetstar has a huge Asian growth strategy, and we're a leisure market, so a lot of our holiday destinations are in Southeast Asia, like Thailand, Cambodia, Vietnam, and that's where so many of World Vision's projects are. So I think the reason why our charity's been so successful is because Jetstar staff who travel through to Asia, as well as Jetstar customers, just feel so fortunate that we're able to have these fantastic holidays, and just by customers donating a couple of dollars when they're on aircraft or donating a few dollars when they're online, that's their way of giving back to the communities and the people who are so beautiful and make our holidays really special. So it's a program that, it's not just corporate, it's just, a way for people to feel like they're giving back to communities as well, and to keep them sustainable also.
Does that filter through all the staff at Jetstar? Yeah.
Definitely. So head office, cabin crew, flight attendants, captains, everyone's really across the program. So
That's great.
yeah, it's a special program.
I know our history with Worldvision goes back many years at Bayside, probably predates my time even in the country, but whenever I first started attending, it was certainly 40-hour famine was the major factor. Our relationships developed and grown and changed over the past few years. We sort of let 40-hour famine go fallow the past couple of years because we reached a massive peak a few years back, but then we found that it was sort of waning in people jumping on board. That certainly doesn't mean that it won't pick up again in a couple of years' time or next year or whatever. But we've certainly been engaged with other programs like end trafficking in person up in the Myanmar borders and Thailand borders and stuff like that, and sort of just continuing our anti-slavery programs that we do, because we really just want to see, from a church perspective, we want to see an end to slavery, and it just was, Worldvision was just such a perfect fit for us, to keep on that track, to make sure that kids weren't being trafficked into slavery and all of those things. And from that, probably the last 3 years, a lot of our focus and attention has been more on the slavery than the actual 40-hour famine or child sponsorship point of view. But it's been good. I mean, the journey's been excellent.
Ours is probably different to all of yours. So my wife and I started a cafe 11 years ago, and we decided, ethically to turn all the tips over to sponsorship, and we started with 3 with Compassion, the opposition. So and at the end of the first year, our daughter came back and started to work with Worldvision. She was overseas and started to work here with Worldvision. So we've then added probably another 4 Worldvision kids, and we have a child rescue program as well. And the tips maintain that sponsorship. So for the last 11 years, we've had them around, spread them around the world, so there's no doubling up. We've got kids all over the place, so it's been good. The other link that we've had with Worldvision is because we sell fair trade coffee, and as soon as the Yoga Chef one came online, we moved that into being our house blend it went for about 6 months or so. It's still one of the biggest selling beans that we have, but it's good. And what was the last one we had was the tsunami. We had the special tin run in for that, and our customers use it well. For some, it's their giving, so they constantly dip or give in the tips. So it's been an interesting ride, and it's been a good response from most people just to there. So we can't afford to run a 40-hour famine in our place. But,
How many kids would you have sponsored?
7.
Wow. That's wonderful.
What I find super interesting about the idea of tips and the fair trade coffee is that the concept of giving back is not something that people are doing separately or, have to go out of their way to go, now I'm going to give, but it's more just linked into their everyday life. So giving a tip or buying coffee, which is a real great way to not only just, raise money, but also educate people as to what's happening. So I find that fantastic.
Thank you.
Yeah, just like thank you water,
Thank you for sharing. We've got some wonderful staff who are sitting actually behind me today who are really eager to come and sit at the table and just to ask you guys some further questions just about your experiences with Worldvision. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to step away and I'm going to actually invite Stephen to come and take this seat, and we'll take it from there.
Thank you all for your time today. John, interested, you were talking before, you also sponsor children with Compassion who also do wonderful work. Tell us about the difference of the experience that you have as a supporter in terms of the information you receive about the child and about the organisation between the 2 organisations.
I hate to say this, but there's no difference. We don't find there is a difference there. They supply us with as much information as Worldvision do, and backups there, and it's much the same.
And is there any other information that you would like from us in regards to your sponsorship of the children?
I mean, we end up with their birthdays and Christmas issues, and our staff have been writing to them occasionally and that sort of thing. So the contact is maintained through it. There's not a lot more that we can, that you keep us up to date pretty well on everything that goes there. I wouldn't change much that comes through.
There's nothing that we potentially annoy you more than what Compassion does? Or?
No, it's fine. The costs are much the same. The response is much the same. So you are you are at the front edge of it all. So it's good.
Good. Thank you.
I'll throw mine too, Bob, in just on that quickly. I've got a slightly different view. So one thing I find very frustrating is the amount of paper-based mail that comes out. You know, I sometimes get more mail from Worldvision than I do from, say, my bank. And I get the feeling that I sort of sit back and go, wow, it's amazing how much mail Worldvision sends out. You know, what's the bill that's associated with the printing and mail distribution that should potentially be going back in? And I know some people do love the paper-based, but I'm that Gen Y category, and you know, I just don't see enough electronic, so emails or you know, even text messages or things along those lines, moving to more a digital age. And then with the mail, it's sort of, you know, you get the Christmas where it says, you know, would you like to purchase a goat or some chickens or sheep or what have you? And I sort of sit back and go, I'd love to, and it sits on my desk and it sits there for weeks, and then I end up missing the Christmas period, and I feel guilty, which, you know, I don't think I should feel guilty because I'm trying to contribute. Whereas if I got an electronic email and you've got my credit card details on file, and I could just go, yeah, 2 chickens, I reckon you get 2 chickens and 2 goats out of me every month.
Yeah, Steve, follow that one through. See if he sticks to his word.
But again, I'm the opposite to that, because we use those that paperwork, the photos and that information, and put it up on the board right near the tip jar, so that people are able to, and a lot of the customers read that information and keep it there. So emails, a delete button's really handy for me. But
so maybe have an option where you do sign up, and how do you prefer your communications to come out, so you can cater for the, you know, multiple modes. Yeah, they are. They're brilliant, actually.
Do you want email or do you want snail mail?
Steve, one of the... I've been thinking about how Worldvision actually does get its message across, how effective it is, and I was thinking it'd be really great to have stories of individuals from when they were a young child to when they grow up and what becomes of them. Do they actually, are they successful? What have they gone through? What has their journey been? If, say, a short movie could be made of it, only 4 minutes, 5 minutes, something like along those lines. And if Jetstar on every flight could have one of those every month and show that on their flight, would be really good. And I'm sure it would, you know, pull the heartstrings and make people think a little bit more about, wow, I'm very lucky. There's so many people out there who aren't, and I could help.
I think that's what I love, the good news story.
Yeah, good news, positive stuff.
Yeah, so you see the child and what's happening.
Yeah, the success stories.
Thank you. I'm Ruth. I work in our advocacy and church division. You've obviously all got a lot of collective experience about Worldvision and the ways in which we work. I was just interested to know, since your time connected with Worldvision, how do you feel your understanding of the systems and structures that keep people in poverty has changed, and if it has changed at all, and if so, how? It's a big question. But I mean, more specifically, I mean, is there further information you would like to know about the actual work that we do in the field in that way?
So I remember when I was in Malawi, like before leaving, I have a good idea about like how disability in particular played a role in, I guess, making more extreme that cycle of poverty. But it wasn't until I got to actually meet individuals who were facing that every single day that I really did understand firsthand what it was like. So in that sense, like that was me getting to actually see it firsthand. But for somebody who hasn't, it may be a little bit more difficult to comprehend how something as specific as disability can play such a major role in, I guess, making worse that cycle of poverty. So things like that, like specific types of causes, whether it be disability, whether it be a particular kind of health issue or anything like that, I don't know, like that's what I found.
The effectiveness of the dollar that's actually donated to World Vision. Out of every dollar, World Vision has got an incredible track record in that its administration costs a very small percentage, probably on the top of the ladder, if not very close to the top of the ladder, which is fantastic. That's something I think people also need to hear, because we do know that a lot of charitable organisations can spend up to 60 cents in every dollar just in administration costs. And so the dollar doesn't go very far at all. It's something that I think World Vision should, let people know about. This is, and also how that dollar is effective, what it can do.
Do you feel that you have a solid understanding of the money that does make it to the field, what it actually does, and the change that your donations actually make?
Not as much as we'd like to.
Yeah.
I mean, it'd be really great if you could give examples of how much, say, what would $20 achieve? Like in Central Australia, Fred Hollow's foundation. I mean, it's very, very, I'm not sure how much it is, but it's, I remember it's only a few dollars, and it gives sight back to someone who's got trachoma.
I think that's why the chickens and donkeys and things are so
Excellent.
good. Giving a toilet or something,
Yeah.
it's real.
I think the stories are great when I do read them, and I'll be open and honest. But I'll just get back to the point, it's the delivery mechanism. You get home from work, 7, 8 o'clock at night, you check the mail, see World Vision. I barely pay my bills because I hate checking mail. But if it was coming through electronically again, in the morning when I power the computer up at work and I'm having my coffee, and I think getting back to Murray's idea, if I could sit there and watch a video that went for a few minutes and you actually really see where the dollar was actually going, because I struggle to visualise when I'm reading, I think that would hit home a lot harder.
I agree. Some of the educational material that we use in schools are videos specifically about what is your money doing in the field and what is it contributing to, and students really relate to that because it's just so visual and it's really, really easy to understand, often sometimes complex processes, but putting it into a 4-minute video and saying, this, this and this, and it hits home, yeah.
Auditory and visual information is retained a lot more than any other type of information, the combination of the two. It works well.
Fantastic, thank you.
How you going? My name's Andrew from the Communications Department. All of you have had variously different experiences and interactions with World Vision over your time dealing with us. Just wondering, if you were Tim Costello for one day, what's one thing or the first thing that you'd change or do to make your experience better in the future?
I would make another video series. That video series that he's done is excellent. We've used it in adult groups, but I would make one for children. I would make one specifically for upper secondary age kids. Something hard-hitting with different viewpoints, different people, visuals. I think these kind of educational tools are something that is necessary.
I agree. I do something quite similar to that. The videos that we have at the moment, they tell stories of children, the ones that we use in schools, but there's a voiceover telling the child's story. But I think that it hits home a lot harder if it's more child-focused, so if the child or the particular family are telling their story and are being able to relate in their own kind of emotional way. And that, I reckon, pulls the heartstrings and gets people to understand what poverty actually is and what it's doing to real people.
Certainly, we're finding a lot of schools are wanting to get involved in social action. A lot of schools have approached Bayside Church and asked, what have you got to offer us that we can get involved in? And we've got our own programs and stuff that we do, but certainly from a global point of view, having a global voice come in and actually explain what poverty is, what it looks like in foreign countries, and then how we can make a difference. Because what we're finding is that we're speaking into a generation who are actually going to make a difference in 5, 10, 15 years' time, and those kids are really taking it to the next level, especially at a local level that we can address today, but later on. Yeah, it'd be good.
Another option is, I've come from Furbank, which is a wealthy school, and every year they take a group of the Year 9s across to somewhere or other, a third world country. And I think World Vision, if they can get in on the ground floor with these kids who are influential and maybe future leaders, that would be a powerful thing. Unfortunately, they went to a Buddhist welfare organisation, and I was furious. I was the chaplain at the time. I said, what about World Vision? They're there too. They're doing great work. But they chose to do something quite alternative. I don't know how you get around that diplomatically, but this is our initiative here in Australia, Christian-wise, so we should be celebrating it.
Great. Thank you.
Thanks, Andrew. Gosh, that went so quickly, didn't it? And we've sort of come to the end now. Unfortunately, we have timed out, but I feel like there's so much more we could talk about, and I just wanted on behalf of all the staff here at World Vision, I really wanted to thank you for your time today. It was really, really valuable, and I just know that each of us will hold the words that you've spoken today in our heart as we go now back to our everyday jobs and we continue to do the work of World Vision. I know that we'll hold what you've said today in the forefront of our mind. We just wanted to just give a quick wave to the camera, to the staff. So if you wanted to wave and we just say see you later, and to the state officers, see ya, thank you.
Good day, Glenn.
Wow, that was amazing. I feel like we probably could have kept going, and there's still so much more that we could have shared and heard from you guys. And
Thanks for coming. Look, I know we don't have much time, so we'll jump straight into it. This is yours. The Thank You Water Journey. It's been interesting. Over the years, we've had some highs and we've had some lows. It took about 3 years to help 5,000 people get access to safe water. A year on from that, we celebrated 15,000. But here's where it gets cool, because today, because you made the switch to Thank You Water, over 50,000 people will now get access to safe water. But there's something we need to tell you. See, when we visited these communities, we saw how life-changing water was. But we also saw some other issues, massive issues that we couldn't just walk away from, and issues we knew you wouldn't walk away from either. Which is why, for the past 15 months, our team have been working flat out here at Thank You HQ, all in preparation for today. Because today, we are launching a range that brings this world more than just access to water, but a range that brings food, health, and hygiene programs, a range that could change literally millions of people's lives, a range that empowers you to live every day, give every day. Now, I know what you're thinking. This is a huge jump to go from water to food, and you're right, it is, but it's all been made possible with the help of this guy. This is Callum Hand. Now, Callum won MasterChef All-Stars, has written cooking books, and runs his own cooking school. Now, he joined our team as our CTO, Chief Taste Officer. He heads up all things taste and quality and has worked with some of Australia's leading suppliers to bring you a range that we know you are gonna love.
Yeah, check this one out. So in the range we've got premium oats, quick oats, muesli bar, mueslis and clusters. We've filled it with high quality, healthy ingredients, and of course we put a lot of effort into how it tastes as well. I think I should know I've eaten one too many of the samples. Now, I can't wait for you to try it because I know you're going to love it. We think that changing the world should leave a good taste in your mouth.
One of the biggest problems in the world is that nearly 1 billion people go hungry every day and thousands more die from hunger. So by you buying this pack, you're providing 1 week's access of life-changing food to someone in need. Plus, you're funding a long-term sustainable food program like a fish farm, cow bank, or even a veggie patch. Now that is just the food range. Hand in hand with our water projects is health and hygiene training. It's kind of like the software that goes behind the hardware. A combination of cleaning your hands with soap and clean water will reduce 45% of water-related deaths, which is why we've launched this body care range to empower you to make a difference, starting with this hand wash. Each bottle that you purchase will provide one person with access to health and hygiene training. And in the family, we've also got hand lotion and a hand sanitizer. We've worked with some of the leaders in the market to develop a range that we love, is it smells good, looks good and feels great, but more importantly, is good for your skin. You can find out more about the entire range at our new website, www.thankyou.co, not .com, because we thought we'd drop the M, it was quicker, cooler, whatever. Now, every single product has its own unique tracker code. You type that into the website or the app, and we'll give you everything. GPS coordinates, details of the projects that you've funded. You have your own profile. Once you've logged in, you'll be able to see the impact that you make all around the world for water, food, health and hygiene. You'll be able to see the detail. And then 6 to 18 months later, when the project's complete, we'll send you an email with a final field report of the project that you funded.
International Development Manager, Peter.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. It's a big pleasure, and I'm really humbled when Ash asked me to kind of speak to the employee forum. So yeah, great to be here.
Now, we've only got about 10 minutes of your time, so I'm going to get straight into it and ask the critical questions. Was that you in the shower in the video?
No, I was actually the food sign, if you saw that.
Food
I was
sign,
the person that, yeah, I'm massive on food, so they decided just to get me to do that.
Very good. We'd like to find out a bit more about Thank You. And for those that don't know, the reason is Thank You happens to be one of our growing partners here at Worldvision. And so if you wouldn't mind just sharing a bit about when and why Thank You was established.
Yeah, sure. So our founder, Dan, and you've seen him on the video, he kind of had this massive revelation moment when he was 19. And yeah, he found out about the world water crisis, and I'm sure most of you guys know about it. But at that time, in 2008, it was nearly 900 million people around the world that did not have access to safe and clean water. And he heard a story about a villager in Africa that was around his age and had to collect water, dirty water in ponds, and had to kind of make this arduous and long trek to get it. And then after the entire hour-and-a-half hike, he came back and he kind of, he kind of basically gave the dirty water to his family, and that kind of broke his heart because he imagined he had two younger sisters, and he imagined him having to give dirty water to his family and the kind of health issues that cause around that, and that kind of broke his heart. And so, start of 2008, he was 19. Most of our team actually is around, at the moment, 25, so we're a really young team. But we kind of decided, let's tackle this issue and let's not kind of make youth an excuse to not do anything. And so, cutting the long story short, we had a lot of ups and downs in trying to start a bottled water company, and we found out and discovered that Australia has a $600 million bottled water industry, which we thought was ridiculous because, I think most of us here find bottled water a bit silly and stupid, but it kind of exists because of convenience, essentially. And so we decided, why not leverage that? Why not make the bottled water industry into something that benefits someone that does not have access to safe and clean water? And so, maybe I'll just, one story I like to share in that journey is, I remember the founders, Dan and Jared and another guy, pulled out to their first ever meeting with their kind of parents' suits and their P-plates still in the cars. And they essentially were told right at the start to start a bottled water company. They needed around $250,000 of capital, just for bottled molds and trademarks and all that sort of stuff. And between them, they probably had around $2 or $200 being uni students. They landed this meeting with a big distributing and supply company. And at the end of this interview, the CEO just asked them, hey, what can I do for you? This is incredible. We've never heard anyone on anything like this before. What can I do for you? And Dan, being 19 and probably young and naive, said, how about 1 million bottles? and kind of everyone laughed nervously in the meeting, including him. And so, we got the call back and he said, you know what, Dan, love what you're doing. Probably not $1 million, but we're going to fund the first run of bottles and you don't have to pay anything up front. And so that basically cut away all the capital that we needed. And it's been a journey over the last 5 years now, where there's been incredible moments where people have got behind us and also lots of, low lights. But the Coles and Woolies campaign kind of summarised where we're at the moment.
Brilliant. So essentially you guys raise money through selling product. Was bottled water, now sparkling water, now food, and obviously hygiene. And we have some samples as you exit out there. You can see what is on offer in Coles and Woolworths stores now. And then you partner with charities such as Worldvision to actually do the back-end work, so to speak.
Yep.
Why Worldvision? And what are some of the benefits of partnering with us, and what are some of the challenges?
Cool. So why Worldvision? I think for our project model, we're really, really proud on partnering with strong project partners that have a focus on sustainable development and also community empowerment. And I know for me personally, Worldvision is kind of the leader and the standard within this area, and it has been for a while. And so I think last year was the first time that we had the privilege just to speak with you guys and to see whether we can come up with a funding model that kind of suited both organisations. And we had the opportunity to. And I think now we're funding 2 water projects and 2 food projects. And I think that's incredible. I think you guys do an amazing job, and meeting a lot of your staff members, a lot of your developmental experts has been we'll fall on to that question, but has been a real highlight for us. Just your expertise and your technical knowledge has been really, really helpful to how we even do our projects and how our project philosophy is grounded in. And so that's a big highlight. Low light, did you say, or?
Challenge.
Challenges.
Thank
Challenges.
you.
Feels like a job interview where it's like, what are your strengths, what are your weaknesses? Challenges, I think. And this is a good thing as well, since Worldvision is one of the biggest, or if not the biggest NGO within Australia and around the world, working with a bigger organisation. We're a small team, and essentially in our kind of industry, we have to make decisions really, really quickly. I know Ash has kind of talked about this with me, but we're constantly in an industry where we need to come up with creative solutions for our, let's say, our Coles and Woolies or 7-Eleven, and they would, let's say, have a really short time span where they would need things done. And so for a small team, that's really easy. But I know in a large-scale organisation, there's lots of checks and balances and lots of interdepartmental communication. Yes.
Well put.
IDCs, and I know you guys love your acronyms, so IDCs. And so that's kind of, I think that's a good thing and a bad thing for us. And so, I think to answer that question.
Share us in 60 seconds, track your impact.
60 seconds, okay. So essentially our project partners, Worldvision, provide us with a village breakdown. So we get GPS coordinates, we get beneficiaries, we get the solutions and the cost of each component. We've partnered with a brilliant software engineer, designer, person that I don't even understand what he does, but he's created this amazing back-end system where our bottle label makers would basically print out like 1 million labels of unique codes that you can see in your water bottle. And we, due to the incredible back-end system that our designer has created, assign each individual project or village to that code. And so essentially in 60 seconds, that's how it works.
So you would download the app on your phone, you put the unique code into it, and then it tells you exactly what water point you're supporting in what project, in what country, and how many beneficiaries that project is actually supporting.
Yeah, I think, just to add to that, I think we're really impact-driven. And so because of that philosophy and because of that value, we always wanted to kind of come up with a way that we can communicate that and the little impact that someone can make all the way in Australia, and that incredible impact actually that can have in the developing world. So that's our heart behind it.
One last question, how can we support what you're doing?
Yeah, beautiful. I suppose maybe, we're a social enterprise, so we're a business and we're a for-profit, and so we make, unlike charities, we don't accept any donations. We kind of give money away due to the profits of our products. And so, yeah, feel free to go into your local Coles
Buy
and Woolies.
product.
Yeah, buy a product,
Good. Well
essentially.
put.
Or even share kind of content. Yeah, I think word of mouth is one of the biggest tools that we use, and marketing and our comms is kind of our strength. So, yeah.
Thank you so much for coming in, Pete. Please give it up for Peter Yao.
Thank you, guys.
And I will mention that Dan and his wife Justine are actually meeting up this weekend with Kevin Tan, the Partnership Manager for Thank You Group in Kenya. They're doing a short stay there to see the World Food Programme contract that they're supporting, and then going to Burundi to see the outworkings of the WASH project that they're supporting. So this very week we've got some high activity going on. So thanks again for your time, Pete. Appreciate it.
Ash.
Okay. How about we just do one more round of applause for all of the supporters? Let me call them out again. So firstly, thank you again, Daniel. Thank you, Water, and all the best for your travel. I'm sure I've approved it somewhere in the system going forward. No, thank you. Mia from Jetstar, fantastic corporate sponsorship. Murray and Vivian Mountain, Scott Anderson, church partner, Chris Cook, John Lewis, and Sareti Kadir. So thank you again to all of the supporters, and look up their profile. They're all amazing individuals in their own right. So just to move on, one of the other highlights for me just through the year and just the life that we have in the organisation is spiritual discernment. And one of the things that we've been doing just as an executive team, not only in our weekly meetings, but as we've done on major projects and major meetings through the years, is to use the examine process. It's a time of reflection where you deliberately take time out during the activity just to try and discern a message, you know, from God about the journey you're on or the conversation. And I found it incredibly powerful, very insightful, and certainly I know in the PTL process it was the same. We used the examine process during the design forum, and I want to share with you, I guess, some of the reflection that I had as an individual in the design process through that. And for those of you who were at the design forum, I'm going to share the story that you heard again. Way back in my more junior days, I actually spent time as a gillaroo, which is essentially a stock man or stock person on a large sheep property in central Queensland near Blackall. So I've got some photos on the screen. None of them are me. There's some way history in time, but it does give you a sense of the land around central Queensland. It's vast open spaces, no trees, and of course properties out there are not hundreds of acres, they're tens of thousands of acres. And the experience I had, and I had a bit of a giggle, it's rather timely, we've got some cattle and sheep, or goats in this case, on the stage, but the story was as a gillaroo, you go out there and you round up sheep in this particular case, and there were, I don't know, 2,000, 3,000 sheep that we were moving from one paddock that was about 2,000 acres across through to another paddock. And as you can imagine, 2,000 acres, when you sit on the back of a horse, it doesn't happen in half an hour. So we were actually on the back of the horse, heralding these sheep. There were probably 6 others of us, and sheepdogs and all that sort of stuff. And we rode for quite a few hours. It was probably 5 or 6 hours most of the day. The gate you've got in the photograph isn't the actual gate, it was much bigger than that. But essentially all we needed to do was to get these 2,000 sheep, basically from one paddock through the gate to another. So we got up early in the morning, we're on top of the horses and spent a great day, it's hot and there's flies, and we just wanted to get going, and we got these sheep right to the gate. The gate was open, so we didn't have to get off the horses, we knew that was the case. But we got there and the sheep stopped. So they're all lined up against the gate. The gate's open, you can walk through. So one thing I learned, sheep are actually quite dumb. But anyway, so we're sitting, just sitting. Remember, this is 5 or 6 hours. We're still sitting on the horse. The horse is getting bored. I'm getting bored. Everybody else is getting bored. The dogs are getting bored. The sheep are still standing there. The gate's open. we must have sat, I mean, clearly I didn't watch my time, but we must have sat there probably for a good 40 minutes, 50 minutes, and the sheep didn't want to go through the gate. Until finally one went through. And then another one went through. And then another one, and then in the space of probably about a minute, 2,000 sheep went through the gate. And the analogy I had was just in terms of our journey around supporter centricity. And this is a really positive analogy. I'm not assuming everybody is a sheep, by the way. But the positive analogy I had is we're spending a lot of time just building momentum, getting everybody corralled together to walk in the same direction. We are on that journey, and I've shared in the executive news wrap. I actually feel very strongly that momentum is starting to build. I feel fairly confident that I've walked through the gate. I know a lot of my colleagues have walked through the gate. And my encouragement to you also is just to think about it. Take your time, there's no urgency. I could have sat on the horse for another couple of hours if we needed to, but yeah, the analogy is I think pretty quickly, having had a number of sheep go through the gate, that certainly the whole of the group will run fairly quickly. So I just thought I'd share that with you. I don't know why God inspired me to reflect back on that particular incident so far back in my particular history, but hopefully it resonates for you. It was a very positive experience, a great learning, but I just sense we're very much on a great journey towards supporter centricity. And as I shared in the executive news wrap, I just think the foundations we've built and the momentum we're building is quite extraordinary. So we can move to the next slide. What you've got in front of you is actually the front door of the office back here in Burwood. And for those of you who are online in state offices, take some time to think about your front door. And what I'd like everybody here to think about is hearing what you've heard today and knowing about who we are as an organisation, what our mission and vision and values are, and what the reflections you've heard from our supporters today is. What is it that you want to reflect on? What is it that you want to do differently? What is it that you want to commit to just in our journey towards supporter centricity over the next while? You were given a card on the way in, so can I encourage you, as you do about that thinking, to write it on the card. And what we'd like you to do is when you do get back to the office is to actually pin it on a notice board so that your colleagues around the organisation can actually read your reflection to hear it is what you've learned, what you've valued, what's inspired you, or things that you may want to do going forward. So I encourage you to spend some time thinking about that and share your thinking going forward. So I hope the forum today, and Jill, yes, the technology did work. I do actually want to thank a number of people, and that's why I've got huge numbers of sheets of paper here. I think today's been incredible. It's been wonderful to hear from all sorts of people and hear and see lots of things, but it couldn't have been possible, and I do want to call out. So Jill, clearly I've mentioned a couple of times, has coordinated the whole thing. So thank you, Jill. So let me read through the others. Ashley Pilmer, Kira McGarrigy, Robert Boytel, whoops, I'm going to need my glasses here, aren't I? Lehu, Chrissy Suter and Sean McKenna. So there's also others of you, but I know you guys specifically were the event crew, so thank you for doing all that. So just to finish off, thank you everyone for being here today. As I say, I encourage you to take some time to reflect, think about the stories you've heard today, the journey we've been on, the extraordinary year that we've actually had as an organisation. Have a look through the list of things that I've called out and the other GMs have called out as being highlights of this particular year. But as you sit and think and reflect, can I also encourage you, of course, next week is our staff prayer day. So just to encourage you as you think about the journey that we've just gone on, be thankful, but also bring some of that reflection and that inspiration as we share together next week at Staff Prayer Day. It is at the State Hockey Centre and then moving across to the zoo. Mr Potato Head will be there. I'll call him out, even though he should have been here today. I can't see him anywhere. But I'm really looking forward to Staff Prayer Day. I think it'll be quite different from anything that we've experienced and journeyed before. So thanks again for coming. I'm sorry we're running over time. Please fill in your cards because I think we'd all love to hear about where everybody's at. Thank you.
well behaved. Keep moving, the beast won't stop till we're dead. All the scrapes on our knees will tell you where we've been, where we have bled. All we played high in the autumn day.